thing on? Is this thing on? Yeah! I knew it was on. You guys are losers. Like Jordan said, my name is Joshua Mullet. No mullet, just long hair. I'm 24 years old. I live and work in South Bend. Oh, I graduated from Fairfield, 2012. I think the lead singer guy tonight was wearing a Fairfield shirt, but rumor has it he's homeschooled. That's kind of crazy. But yeah, I live and work in South Bend. I'm a software developer, so I meet like a ton of girls that way. Just kidding, that's not true. I am single, but I have really long hair. And we've been together for about 3.5 years. We're about to break up, so don't get attached. I'm sorry. Sorry. It's not me, it's it. But honestly, I'm super excited to be here tonight. Be able to talk to you guys. It's an honor to be asked to tell you what it's like to be following God in real life. The main thing I want to talk to you about tonight is it's called Inside Out Ministry. The idea is that we use a skill that we have given to us by the Lord, and then we kind of infiltrate a community. We go within a community, and we love people from the inside out. To give an example of this, I'm actually going to start with a counter-example called Outside In Ministry. So for college, I went to Indiana University in Bloomington, and I was part of a ministry called Crew. Maybe some of you guys have heard it, but Crew is one of a bunch of really cool Christian ministries on campus. They do what you'd kind of expect. They do a big group meeting like this. They do upperclassmen Bible studies, underclassmen Bible studies. They do events. They do fun stuff. And it's cool. I was really involved with them while I was there. Just to give you an example of what my week would look like. On Sundays, I would go to church with people that were from Crew, and Mondays, I would go attend a Bible study. Tuesdays, I would help plan a different Bible study. Wednesdays, I would attend that Bible study. And then Thursdays, I would go to a big group like this. Fridays, I would play volleyball with people mostly from Crew. And Saturdays, nothing planned, but probably going to hang out with people from Crew. And so as you can see, I was really involved in Crew, and it was honestly kind of like a bubble. And not necessarily in a super healthy way. From the outside, if you were a non-believer, it could be intimidating the way we did it. You know, it wasn't exclusive by any means, but we all kind of acted the same. We all believed the same thing, so it could be intimidating to approach that group of people. And one thing that we did in Crew was called ministry. What that looked like for us, we would, in a group of a few guys, we would go out and we would talk to people that were eating in cafeterias and food places, and we would engage them in a spiritual conversation. So we would ask them, what do you believe spiritually and why? And then we would tell them about the gospel. And it was cool. Like that's not a bad thing by any means. That's not what I want you guys to hear. Is that I don't think that's a good thing. I think it is a good thing. People were hearing the gospel, right? But a lot of the times you could tell from the conversation that people weren't really engaged. They wish we'd kind of leave, and they were uncomfortable in a way because we came there and we didn't really know them. They had no reason to trust us. And so that was kind of what we fought a lot of times. We would try to follow up with these people, and we would try to get more information from them. But honestly, in all 4 years of doing this, I didn't see a ton of success. Which, the success is when the gospel's proclaimed, but we weren't establishing relationships like we were trying to do. And that was kind of a bummer in my time there. One of the main problems that we had with this was our attitude was a come join us attitude. So we have this bubble, and then this outside in ministry looks like you're on the outside and we're trying to drag you in a little bit, or come see what we're like, come see the freedom we have in Jesus. And the idea wasn't bad, but people were coming from their comfort zone into our comfort zone, which was uncomfortable for them. So the idea is it was hard to convince people to leave their comfort zones, which is totally understandable. And now to give you an example of what is called like inside out ministry. So and you get the idea already. We go to them and we love on them, tell them about Jesus from the inside where they're comfortable. when I would come home in between years of college, I would have a job, and I would play volleyball. And initially, I wasn't terribly good, and I played in Goshen and with siblings mostly, and people I knew just kind of for fun. But as we got better, I actually moved where I was playing to Osceola. And I stopped playing with people that I was familiar with. I still played with my sister Nicole, but that was the only person I still knew that I was playing with. So suddenly I'm involved in this community. I have no idea who they are. I have no idea any of these people. And it was intimidating. These people really aren't Christ followers. So, the coarse joking and the over drinking and, even like snobby attitudes or whatever, it's kind of hard to know how to react in these situations. And I found myself uncomfortable in engaging with these people because I don't know how to act. This isn't like when I was in crew, I was super comfortable, but now I'm out of my element seemingly. But the longer I played there, the better I knew how to handle those situations and love on these people. And slowly I started gaining friendships. They were shallow friendships, but it was, over time it was starting to get better and better. And by before I came home this summer, I realized I'm home for good. Like every other time I would come home for a summer, I'd go to school, and come home for a summer and go to school. But this time I was home for good, and I was like, this is an opportunity to really become friends with these people beyond just some shallow relationship. And so I realized my heart was growing for these people, and I found myself praying for them consistently at IU. And my prayer was, Lord, you've given me this volleyball, and I continue to get better at volleyball every year, and you've given me this skill. I'm going to be playing this sport. It would be so awesome, God, to use this primarily as a ministry. Yeah, I want to have fun, and I want to be out in the sun and do that kind of stuff too, but primarily, let's make this a ministry. And I kept on praying that, and it was crazy what started happening. So I'd pray before every interaction with these people, every night before I go play volleyball, and I was gaining favor with these people that I absolutely couldn't explain. See, like out on the court, I'm kind of goofy, and I don't take it too seriously. I try really hard, and I'm always trying to beat the opponent. But I'm lighthearted, and I'm constantly loving on the people across the net. And people saw that was different. They weren't starting to like me because I was just like them. They were starting to like me because I wasn't. I was a breath of air. I was a breath of fresh air. And to this community, and they really appreciated it. It was incredible. I didn't see it coming, honestly, not on this scale. People just started coming up to me, and they liked me. And again, not because I was fitting in perfectly, but because I wasn't. People started picking me up for their teams. They started asking me to be on their teams for tournaments and for leagues. And by doing this, they were guaranteeing they were going to be spending time with me. Like, we travel to Michigan for tournaments, in Ohio and Illinois, and we travel these places for tournaments. So they're locking themselves in a vehicle with me for hours, which is great for me. And so it was exciting. It was exciting to see that people were really liking who I was, not as a fake person, but as a Christ follower. I wasn't trying to fit in. I was just trying to love them, and it was amazing, the results. One example of this, I was with my friend Hallie. Hallie's about 6'3". She's pretty good at volleyball, and she is nuts, like absolutely crazy. And I love Hallie so much. She has the foulest mouth, and she's kind of mean sometimes to the opponent. But man, if she's on your team, it's really great. And anyways, Hallie and I are in the backseat. It's after a tournament. We're in the backseat traveling home, and something happened at the tournament that day. And I reacted to it in a way that she liked. The opponent said something, and Hallie liked the way I handled the situation. Anyways, and she asked me, she was like, why did you respond that way? And my initial thought was, well, I could just say I don't like confrontations, or I could have said it a lot of ways, but it was this awesome opportunity to instead go into why I act the way I do all the time. So she was asking a simple question, but instead, I told her what Jesus has done in my life, why I act the way I do. And the thing was, it didn't feel forced or like a job. Sometimes when I was ministering at IU, it could almost feel like I was forcing myself, like it was something I was supposed to do. But this just made sense. Hallie and I are friends. And so when she asked this question, I instead just told her about myself, which included Jesus. And because she trusted me, it wasn't like she had seen the way I lived. So when I say that I live the way I do because of Jesus, that meant something then because she knew me. And it was awesome. She's in the back seat and she's telling me about her experience with spirituality. And she's crying, and I'm not crying, but I'm getting close. And it was such a cool experience. We were sitting in the back seat of a car on the way home from a tournament. It happened because I was in her life, and it mattered because she knew who I was. My other buddy, a buddy of mine named Justin, he won some stuff on eBay on a bid, and so he wanted to go to Indy to pick it up, and he asked me if I wanted to go. And so I was like, initially, like, I don't want to spend 7 hours in a car. But then I was like, but he'll be trapped in that same car with me. And so we could just talk about things, and I bet one of those things will be Jesus. And sure enough, it came up. It was so cool. And we started talking, but when I only agreed to it because I was fervently praying for him beforehand that we would get into a conversation where he'd be real. And sure enough, he told me about how the church had hurt him in the past and why he believed what he believed. It was an awesome experience. And he even said during the conversation, he's never seen someone emulate Christ in a real way. He had heard of Christians, he had met Christians, he was friends with Christians, but he said that the way I actually treated people gave Christianity a meaning, and that meant a ton to me. It was such a neat opportunity when I didn't really want to go to Indy, but I wanted to talk to Justin. And because he had known me and liked me, that's why he invited me along. It was awesome. Another buddy, not buddy, opposite of buddy. His name's David. I don't really like David. But so there's this tournament in Michigan, and it's known for high-level volleyball, but it's actually really known for its super crazy after party. And I was kind of nervous about it. I don't love that scene at all, but I thought it could be a really cool opportunity. And so I was talking with Jordan about it, and I agreed that I would not drink at all at this party. I was going to attend, and I was going to have fun and dance, but there's no drinking for me. And it was incredible. So I'm out there, I'm dancing, and it's horrible to dance. And then I went and sat down to catch my breath. And there's this dude named David. We're not friends. And he's over there, and he has a cup in his hand, and he says, "Josh, why aren't you drinking?" And I was, and that's what I explained. I said, I don't really love the idea of anything controlling my life, and so I've decided to take a break from drinking because I don't want that in my life, controlling my life. And suddenly he got like really serious, and he held up his cup and he said, "This is the worst decision I ever made." And it was incredible. Like, suddenly this guy who I don't even like, he's really mean on the volleyball court, that's why I don't like him. But this guy that I don't even like, he's suddenly becoming really real with me in that moment. And we started talking about why drinking was the worst decision he ever made. And this all stemmed from me not drinking. I was involved in that environment, but I didn't have to be partaking in whatever they were doing. And so because of that, suddenly we're in this conversation about what it's done in his life and the pains he's experienced because of it. And it was amazing. We're almost friends now. And then lastly, there's this dude named Steve, and Steve is so cool. He's such a good dude. And at one point last summer, I told him, I said, I reached out to him and I said, "Hey man, I'm praying for you and your family." And you never really know what's going to happen when you tell someone that, because they could be like, "Okay, that's pretty weird. I'm never going to talk to you again." That doesn't really happen though. He thanked me and he said that was cool, but he didn't seem to be overly excited about it. He was just like thankful for it. A couple months later, I did the exact same thing. I reached out and said, "Hey man, praying for you and your family." He was like, "Cool, that's awesome." And we were still chummy and stuff at volleyball. And finally, one day we were at this tournament. And I don't even know what we were talking about. I have no idea how we got on this conversation. But suddenly, he is telling me something very serious about his family. Like, it came out of nowhere, and I was sitting there. I was like, wow, it's kind of an honor to for him to trust me so much with this information. And suddenly I realized he knew I was praying for him and his family. And so almost without saying it, he first of all trusted me enough to say it because he knew I actually cared enough to pray at least. And then he also, it was almost like a silent prayer request. Like, he's telling me something really hard with his family, and it was cool because I was able to be praying for his family even more specifically after that. And so that relationship there is all based out of me reaching out at certain points and just continually letting people that I know that I care. And not just care in a human way, but care way beyond this world, into their spiritual lives as well. And I'm not going to lie, it keeps on going on and on. People just, they come up to me, this happened a lot, where they say, Josh, we really like you. And it isn't just because like I'm goofy and fun, like lots of people in the volleyball community are. But I am literally earning special favor from these people because the Lord has given me this gift. And I'm in this place and I'm trying to use it for Him. And it's been incredible, the results, when I faithfully used my skill to try to honor the Lord. And so tonight, I'm hoping, like, maybe all of you are volleyball players. That'd be great. But if not, I hope you're thinking of a skill that you do have. And it'd be so cool if you would seriously consider using it. Not just for your own gain, and not just for fun, not for activity, but seriously using it for ministry. I will warn you, this is kind of a dangerous thing, though, because you have to go to the non-believers. See, what I was doing at Crew wasn't that dangerous because I was around believers all the time. So if I just kind of acted like them, I was probably safe. No one's going to judge me because I'm around them the whole time. But if you go into a group of non-believers without the point of ministry, without any accountability, what's going to happen is you're just going to start looking more and more like them. I play with other Christians, but honestly, it's hard to say, but honestly, I had no idea they were believers until much later in our friendships. Because more and more as time goes on, they're actually looking more like the non-believers around us. And it's hard to say and it's hard to admit, but honestly, if you go into these situations full of non-believers and you do not have ministry on your mind, you will instead become more like them instead of the other way around. And so what I ask you to do is, while you're thinking about your skill that you want to use, while you're thinking about that, I ask you to, instead of saying, oh, this will be for fun, and this will be a really cool activity, I really enjoy this, and hopefully something good comes out of it, it would be, this is a ministry first. The other stuff comes along with it. I have fun in volleyball, and I get a good workout in volleyball and stuff like that, but that is not the primary goal. If you stay ministry first, that's a huge first step. There was a point last fall, and I was meeting with Jordan at this time, and I told Jordan, I said, man, I'm not going anywhere with my ministry. I'm way too focused on volleyball, and it's just becoming about getting better at the sport. And I told him, I said, this is my prayer right now, and I asked him to pray the same thing, which was either I would actually participate in ministry at volleyball, or the Lord would take volleyball away from me in general. And that was a really hard prayer because I love volleyball. I've dedicated a ton of time. It's such a fun thing for me. But I got to this point where I was fed up with volleyball because there's no longer ministry for me. That needs to be our mindset, that either we are there for ministry or we're taken out of it in general. The second thing, and this is another thing, so Jordan and I meet every week. And because I want him to hold me accountable for what I do, because I spend so much time with non-believers, if I don't have to report to anyone, if I don't have to tell anyone, I really don't know what would happen. So first of all, what helps is when I fail and when things aren't going that well, Jordan's right there to remind me why I'm there, what I'm doing it for, and keeps me on track. Second of all, when I find myself in those, like at these parties and around these people who don't believe, there are plenty of opportunities to sin. And no one's going to judge you because they're doing it too. And so what's so important is in those moments, I think, here's a sin that I could do, and it would be very fun in the short term. And then I think, but if I do that, then I'm going to have to tell Jordan, and that would really stink. And so literally, that alone has kept me from participating in these things at these parties, which has been such a big help for me. And so right now, if you're thinking, I want to use my skill, but I don't necessarily